and welcome to the Bright Minds of E-commerce podcast. I'm Dana, founder of Bright Red Marketing, your e-commerce advertising specialists. We focus primarily on Facebook and Instagram ads, driving direct return on investment only for e-commerce stores. I started this podcast to share the inner workings of the e-commerce world, share success stories, as well as advice from experts. So whether you're thinking of starting your first e-com store or you're ready to scale to $500,000 months, this podcast is for you. So let's get started. Welcome to episode 3. Hi, and welcome to the Bright Minds of E-commerce podcast. Today we are here with Nikki. Nikki is the director of Kellective by Nikki, a personalized jewelry brand. They hand make jewelry that is unique to you. No two pieces are ever the same, and with the dates, names, or initials that matter the most to you, hand stamped onto your necklace, bracelet, earring, or rings, your jewelry will tell your story. Hi, Nikki. We're so happy to have you.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about how Kellective by Nikki came to be.
I guess there's sort of two separate parts to it. So the first part is I've always been a bit creative. I've always wanted to do something on top of my normal job. I used to work in a bank, in a corporate sort of environment, and it was awesome. I really liked it, but it was I really wanted to do something on top of that as well. This is before I had children, when I had a lot of time. And then I was 38 weeks pregnant, really looking forward to maternity leave, and I got made redundant from my corporate job. And suddenly I thought everything that I sort of foreseen happening, I guess, I was going to be on maternity leave for 9 months. I was going to come back and just slot right into my normal job. All of that sort of disappeared. And because I get quite bad anxiety, I didn't want to start at a new workplace with, building connections, establishing a network of sort of people that knew us and knew what I was like and knew that, you don't call in sick every day, like, because I'd have a new baby. And I got really nervous about all that stuff. I'd never had a baby before, and I just heard that they were sick all the time. So I sort of didn't know what to do. And I thought, right, okay, so I'm going to start something at home, and I want to earn $200 a week. So I was like, that was my goal. And I thought $200 a week, that's 10 grand a year. That's like our emergency fund. We might go on holiday. That sort of covers that stuff. And from there, I sort of just started, I guess. I knew what I wanted to make because I'd been thinking about it for a while, but I couldn't afford to start making jewelry. It was too big of a risk, sort of. So what I did instead was I made like little keyrings and little other bits and pieces that was a lot, I guess, lower value. So sort of lower value to get started. And then I did that for 12 months and saved up all of the little bits of profits that I made from that, and then started jewelry. And so that's sort of how it was born, I guess, pretty much because I was too anxious to get a job. I guess that's the real reason.
I like it. As someone with, anxiety and depression as well, I totally understand.
Yes, it does. It overtakes your mind. Yeah.
So how did you progress then from keyrings and things to, the incredible jewelry products that you have now? Was it just like, how did you transition customers from that?
So originally I had an Etsy store and I had everything on there. So I used to make like key rings, bookmarks. I used to make like little shoe tags and stuff because my mom, she runs quite a lot of marathons, and she was like, oh, can I put something on my shoes? So pretty much I just make all little bits and pieces for people. And then when I started jewelry, I took a few days and like making stuff, photographing stuff, writing all of the listings and stuff, and put them on Etsy along with all of these other bits and pieces. And I honestly thought, I was like, okay, I'll hit sort of submit on this product and people are just going to start ordering. That's what I thought. But it didn't quite work like that. I think the next order that, I was getting a few orders a day sort of from the other bits and pieces. And then the next order was not jewelry. And then the next order was not jewelry. And then the next order was not jewelry. And then finally someone ordered a necklace and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then I panicked because I'd never actually sort of, I guess, I'd only made for myself and friends and family and stuff. And I was like, it's, I guess, a higher value item. And my husband would come into my workspace, which was just the garage at the time, and he would say like, oh, so someone's buying this from you, and he would even be amazed. So I was like, yeah, I guess amazed myself. But so at first I just sort of tried to sell both of them, and then when it got to the first Christmas, so I started this mid-year, and as it got closer towards Christmas and the sales were picking up and I couldn't manage it all myself, I started to drop off what I didn't want to sell anymore. Yeah. And then from after Christmas, I thought I'm just going to sell just jewelry. And so that's what I did. And I sort of had all these listings on Etsy as a backup in case I didn't get busy enough. But luckily, I never had to use them. And I think it's been maybe 3 years now. This will be, 3 years, I guess, this Christmas. And I think I only just deleted those listings off Etsy just a few weeks ago, maybe. It was still, I still sort of thought, what if nobody ever buys a necklace again? I'll sell a bookmark. Problem. Luckily, touch wood.
Yeah. So you obviously started out on Etsy. How did you kind of get your first real customers rather than, the friends and family customers?
So on Etsy, I guess it's sort of like a marketplace in its own. It's like a website, just if you don't know what Etsy is, it's sort of like a handmade marketplace, I guess. So similar to eBay, things like that, but everything is either handmade or vintage. And so you can go there and you can search for what it is that you're looking for. And I guess I was just relying on that. I was relying on, I guess, that traffic to begin with. So the traffic that Etsy already bring in, and then just hoping that people found me in the searches. There's a lot of work behind that with sort of like, search engine optimization, even on Etsy. And so I did a lot of research. You have to do a lot of research around all of these things, I guess, to sort of get the most out of the platform that you're using. So I would spend hours sort of like reading forums, Googling stuff, watching YouTube videos, in like Facebook groups and things. And from there, I'd sort of like with the jewelry, I'd started to have like an Instagram account. I just turned my own Instagram, my personal one, into my one. So if you go back far enough, you'll just see photos of me and my kids. I think there's over 1,000 photos now, so you'd have to scroll quite far. But I'd sort of started doing that when I started doing jewelry. And so gradually I'd been sort of building up, I guess, my own traffic. So from Etsy, you can have a website. You can pretty much just duplicate your Etsy store into a website. It's called Pattern, and it's a function that Etsy offer. I don't know if they still offer it or if it's the same, I'm not sure. But I did that. So that served its purpose, I guess, for a little while. And it sort of proved that the majority of people were now not finding me on Etsy. They were finding me through the links that I was putting out there. So the ones from my Facebook and from my Instagram. And then based on that, I then closed that store. Like I stopped using the Pattern and just went back to a normal Etsy store, and I built my own website. And I remember putting it on Instagram like, hey, I've got a new website. Everyone go and check it out. I'm so excited. And somebody ordered like sort of within half an hour and messaged and were like, yay, I'm the first order on your new website. And I was just like, oh my God, like people are actually looking at what I'm doing, and people are reading these captions that's taken me 2 hours to write and overthinking everything. But it was quite amazing. So since then, I haven't ever sort of looked back. I do still have an Etsy store because I figure, why not? Everything's already there. And I guess it's just another sort of channel to sell on, and it takes care of itself. You don't really have to do anything to it. So it sort of just brings in, it might bring in like 20 sales a week, or it might bring in 1 sale a week, but it's better than nothing. So yeah. Exactly. And then we have our own store that's sort of separate that I built. So from that first store, like we then sort of upped our game a bit and then made it better and made it better and made it better again. And at the minute, we're actually sort of behind the scenes doing a full overhaul of our website right now, but that won't come out until the new year.
That's exciting. So I know you said that you did a lot of research into, optimizing that Etsy site. Are there any maybe like 1 or 2 big tips that you could share for those that are, on Etsy and maybe not getting the traffic that they're after?
Oh, for sure. So probably the best thing. So Etsy allows you to have tags, and you can have up to 13 tags on your items. And so you've got to use all of those tags, and you've got to sort of, I guess, have them relevant to obviously what the product is, and think about, so if you think about what you're selling and then think about what things people would type in to search for that. So if you were selling, I don't know, like headbands for babies, people might not type in what you would imagine them to. It might be like a first birthday gift. Like people might look at your baby's headbands and think that would make a beautiful first birthday gift. And so that's the sort of things that you've got to try and get into those tags. Yeah. And then you've got to try and match the tags to your description. And so I think Etsy, I can't remember the exact number, but say it has about 170 characters for the product title. And people just would use, say, baby headband, and that's not going to get found because that title is what connects, like it's pretty much part of the search engine. Yeah. So if you type in like baby headband, first birthday headband, like white organza headband, like sort of detail, and just keep, it sounds like you're repeating yourself, and you definitely are, but I guess that's how you get people to find works. You. Yeah. That's a great idea. That would be my 2 biggest tips.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, because I know that a lot of people will set up on Etsy, and some people, by what appears to be magic, just do really well, and other people really struggle. But that makes sense. You know, there's a lot of background, research and, things that you can do to really help that.
And I guess like when you search on Etsy, if you were to search for, say, a baby headband, there's going to be thousands, and yours has got to come up really well. So what you can see is the photos. So the photos, like, I guess you need to have like clear and crisp photos. So not against, say, patterned backgrounds or anything like that. They just need to look really fresh and very obviously what it is. And the other thing that I just thought of for people in Australia is a lot of people want to search Etsy just for stuff that's in Australia. I know I definitely do, and not everybody uses, there's like a filter where you can see the shop location, and not everybody would use that. So what you could do is in your tags, you can put in like Australia. So if people were searching baby headband Australia, then yours would come up. Yeah, because not everybody will use those filters. So that's just some small things. And I guess that's just from me using Etsy, because I buy a lot on Etsy as well. And I will use the filters, and it might say the original search might list 17,000 products. And then if you filter for Australia, it might only be 1,000 products or 500 products. And that sort of suddenly gets your competitors, it gets rid of a lot of them. So that's another sort of big thing just from me using Etsy that I would do.
Yeah, no, I do the same thing because I don't want to pay the shipping for something from the US.
Yeah, and the wait times as well. And I guess I also think like, if I'm a small business and I'm trying to support small and local, so I would rather do that myself.
Exactly. Obviously, you're hand making each individual piece. How do you go about managing, I suppose, that workflow and customer expectations rather than, people buying a necklace and expect it gets shipped tomorrow? How do you kind of manage that process?
Oh, that's a hard one. And I don't think that it's ever going to be perfect. I think that sometimes customer expectations can be really hard to manage. Obviously, we will sell things that's sort of handmade and unique, but then there's sort of people will select, say, express post and expect that it's going to be there the next day. So things that we sort of try and do is we have every way that we can, we have sort of our turnaround times. And so even when it goes to checkout and you've got to choose your postage options, we'll sort of list them as in express post and then have in brackets plus making and dispatch time. And we sort of hope that these sort of things try and, I guess, filter out the miscommunications. And like we'll have like our turnaround times on our Instagram. So even when those turnaround times go up, we'll up it on our Instagram, say at Christmas and Mother's Day. So we try and be very clear, I guess. And we also send an email. So when you purchase the product and you get like your order confirmation, we say in the order confirmation as well, like approximately how long it'll take for us to dispatch it. We often work way ahead of our dispatch times. So I know that, say today, we're working on orders that have a 7 to 10 day dispatch business days. So that can be, say, like, I guess a week and a half to 2 weeks. And we're sort of currently turning them around in about a week, and even lower than that. So when we send things out in a couple of days, those will be things that were just ordered 5 days ago, like 5, including the weekend. Yeah, so we try and, I guess, always overestimate, I guess, what it's going to be, and sort of,
yeah. But I suppose by doing that by proxy, when your customers get them a little bit early, that makes them a little bit happier because they were expecting it to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But if you need the full 2 weeks, then you've kind of managed those expectations as best you can.
Yeah, and I think there is, and I do it myself, everybody wants things quite quickly, and I'll order things and want it quickly as well. So I guess it's just trying to sort of be clear and upfront. And even like on Etsy, when you get an Etsy order, say, it'll tell you how many days you've got to ship it. And when you've got like 2 days left to ship, it'll turn it to red and say like due in 2 days.
Yeah.
But when your items take 3 to 5 days, then when you're 2 days left, you're still well within, you're only at the start of your estimate. But I panic and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to get this out now. So I guess it's also trying and sort of understand like yourself that like you're not running late. And yeah, so whilst we try our best to get it out beforehand, like if we get it out within our time frame, then that's perfectly good. Like that's like we're doing well. Like the only time where we should really panic is if we're not. But yeah, I guess it can be hard to manage for us and for customers. But so we just try and plaster it everywhere pretty much.
Give them all the information, they can make the decision as they go.
Yeah, that's right.
I like it. So I know that pricing is a really big issue for a lot of handmade businesses. I see them all the time in Facebook groups, not complaining, but questioning how people can make money, and they've calculated it and they're only making, $5 an hour, but they don't want to put their prices up. I know that you have now, expanded your business to having staff and you're moving into a new space. All of that's really exciting. But that obviously means you've got your pricing, I suppose, in a really good situation. What would be maybe your suggestion to those starting out in terms of how to price your products so that you can still, run a business effectively?
This is a really difficult question to answer, and it definitely depends on the product that you're making. And I guess because certain people value certain products, say for jewellery, we have quite competitive pricing. We actually sell, say, cheaper than the big jewellery stores, like the Michael Hills and stuff. We are usually cheaper than those stores, and we can usually deliver faster. But when it comes to things like, say, there's a lot of handmade clothing and things like that, that's really hard because people don't always have the same sort of expectations on price. I mean, you go to Kmart, you can pick up a t-shirt for $5. So people think that that's how much a t-shirt should cost. So I guess when you're sort of starting out in business, you really need to look at what it is, like what your brand is about, what it values. Are you a sustainable sort of brand, and sort of really sell those points, and also look at who your customers are. If you're trying to sell to someone that wants to pay $5 at Kmart and you're making a handmade shirt that costs $50, then you've got to aim towards the customer that's got to pay for that. Yeah. And you've got to sort of, I guess, try and market it for that person as well, rather than the Kmart person. And with that, I guess you always start off, you obviously try and get like great suppliers with competitive sort of pricing. And I would look into detail as to how much everything costs you. So how much time, how much you want to earn an hour. Look at your overall. I would always have targets. And then you've also got to factor in time for admin. The admin in a business takes hours and hours. So for instance, the lead up to Christmas now, I haven't been doing much admin because I've been making as well as the rest of the team, because I really have to. We need sort of everybody to make, and the admin is taken forever. And I think people, when I start in business, they don't factor in that they need to get paid for those hours. And that's a big thing.
Yep.
So I guess before you start your business, I would really look at what it is that you want to make, you research what you can sell it for, make sure that that's something that people are going to pay for, and then almost not get sad about the people that don't want to pay for that.
Yeah.
So if you're selling baby clothes, I know I buy lots of handmade baby clothes for Aspen. I also do buy things from Kmart because I can't send Aspen to daycare in a $50 romper from she's just going to trash it. So yeah, I would try and stick by your values, I guess, and value your time. And then I know that some brands as well, some handmade brands, especially in, say, the clothing area, they'll outsource it once they get sort of a foot in the door. They've got an audience, they've got a customer base, and then start looking to outsource whatever you can. So that's what I would be doing if I was sort of in that space. But I guess it is a hard question. It is a hard question to answer, and it depends what your goals are. So before you start, I would always sort of sit down and work out, how much money you want to make, like what you're going to sell, how much you can sell it for, what it costs you, what other sort of time it's going to put into it, and sort of factor in all these things, and then see if you've got a product, because you might not necessarily have something that people are going to pay for, or have something that's different enough that there's a place for it in the market. So I guess there's all those things. But pretty much as well, if somebody says, because I'm in a lot of Facebook groups of handmaidens, and a lot of them will be, say, stay-at-home moms who they're not wanting to start a big business. They're just wanting to sort of earn like a wage whilst they stay at home and work around their children. And that's awesome. Yeah. But that's sort of, I guess, when you go into that, you've got to understand that that's what your target is. And then you can obviously price things accordingly and value your time accordingly. And their time's worth just as much. But what I'm saying is that they might not want to, make 50 items a week. They might just want to make a handful of things to get them through. But yeah, so I guess I would factor in all of these things before you start and look at what people are prepared to pay and sort of work out if you can fit in that before you start. And if somebody tells you that something's too expensive, then I wouldn't worry. They're not your customer. Because I used to get quite upset by that. Not upset, but even now people message me all the time asking for a discount code all the time. And it used to sort of be like, do you not think that it's worth full price? And it's honestly, it's not that. It's not a personal thing. It's really hard to sort of take your emotions away from that. And yeah, but I guess that's ultimately what you've got to do. There's a lot of harsh lessons in business, a lot of harsh lessons.
Yeah. I think you're right, though. I think it comes down to making sure you do the math and making sure that you've included all of the variables. Because I think a lot of people get stuck in, I'm going to make this and I only want to make a little bit of like pocket money on the side. But then they don't work out that if they're only making, 2 or 3 a week with a certain profit margin and then all the admin time, it works out that they're only earning like $5 an hour. And it's just not worth it at that point.
Yeah, I've seen exactly that in Facebook groups. And it's like, you really need to up your price then, or change your product to something that's a simpler design. It doesn't take so long to make, or something that you can outsource, or
find a different, potential customer that's willing to spend more on it so you can put your prices up, those sorts of things.
But it is also, there's a lot of handmade stores out there that are just killing it. And, the people are obviously willing to pay those prices. Like, obviously, there's stores out there that are killing it. I buy from them all the time. I get so sucked in by all the cute little baby things.
But it's true, though. Like, there's the kind of people that only ever want to buy things at Kmart. And then there's the people that go and spend $20,000 on a handbag, get Gucci or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You can, people will pay the price if they see the value in it. So sometimes it's a marketing thing,
exactly
sometimes it's a value thing.
And it's how, I guess, then you market yourself is to if you are, I know there's, say, a lot of sustainable swimwear and stuff around at the minute that's made from, say, like recycled plastics and stuff. That's all awesome. I'm very much a person that will go to a website and read the About Me section. I'll do it all the time now. Never used to, but now I definitely do. And sometimes after I've been following someone for a while on Instagram, and then I read the about us, I'm sort of like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. I would always make sure that your key messaging is just all over the place, because that's what people want to know. And that's when this can start seeing the value in things as well.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I know with a lot of handmade artist kind of products, they end up dealing with a lot of copycats. Have you had to deal with much of that?
We do. There's this sort of fine line, I guess, between, so we make initial necklaces, we make bar necklaces. There's a fine line sort of between like what sort of copying. I've sort of questioned it myself a few times. I try and come up with, I guess, unique patterns and things. We have had to send a couple of emails to people that have copied our content from our website. So they went to our website and copied and pasted everything that I've written. So that's a very obvious one, because you simply can't do that. You can't take someone else's content and claim it as your own. And then there's there's that part of it, I guess. And then the second part of it is sort of in terms of design of products. So industry, or in the market that I'm sort of in, there is similar brands out there. There definitely is. There's brands that are sort of, I guess I use the terms like sort of, I guess the same as what we sell and the same sort of quality. And then there's brands that sell sort of inferior quality. That sounds like not a very nice word, but that's, I guess, how to describe it. It's maybe not
it's
the right.
Truth, no, you use like real, like everything. We use like
precious metals. Yeah. And so then there's obviously companies that will sell things that sort of just plated things that, will last for a couple of months. And that's fine, because there's a market for that. There's market for people that don't want to sort of pay for sort of like, they want to have the cheaper option sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they don't mind that. But yeah, I guess what we sort of come up against is there's the fine line between like design. So, you've got a necklace, you put someone's initials on it, like it's been done to death sort of thing. Like I wouldn't even know where to begin on who originally started this. And then, so I guess it's sort of trying to be different. It's trying to make different products, or even if you make the same product, trying to sort of stand out for a reason, or it's definitely a hard one. Yeah. I feel like I've completely screwed this question.
No, not at all. It's a great answer. How did you deal with, people blatantly stealing content from your website?
That was a hard one, and it still is a hard one. We still have a couple of issues where we have even like our Instagram content, things like that sort of. And if I'm honest, I don't really know what to do, because it's not something that I would personally do. And so it's sort of hard to put yourself in someone else's shoes when you can't sort of, is it the kind of thing
where you've like sent cease and desist letters, or there's just not much you can do about it?
When they copy our content, I've never, luckily, touch wood, had to get our lawyers involved for cease and desist just yet. I generally try and send an email myself first, because I think I try and be a nice person. I try and be kind, and I try and always be reasonable. And I sort of think I try and give people that chance to sort of,
do the right
thing. Take it, to do the right thing and sort of just take it down and replace it. I once had a lady that emailed asking a few questions about how I made things, and she was in South Africa. And I thought, oh, well, that's not my market. So, I don't really get many orders for South Africa. So I'll help her, like, why not? So I started writing back, and then I thought, oh, I'll just have a look at her website and just see sort of where she's up to. And she had all my photos on her website. And I sort of was like, oh dear. So I was like, delete what I wrote. And then I was like, please take down my copyright from your website. And people do, I guess, I don't know, people don't think about things themselves. My only advice to people is to just, even if you're going into a market that's saturated or there's very similar products out there, I guess my advice is to just be yourself, be your own individual, because I think I'm a very genuine person. I'm a very honest person, and I'm a huge oversharer. Anyone that follows my Instagram they'll see photos of me, photos of my kids. They'll know all about sort of my anxieties, like what hair straightener I'm using, all sorts of stuff. I just sort of, I really enjoy the connection with people, and I hope that that comes across to our followers and our customers. I'm also a very reasonable person, I'd say. And I think that being that sort of genuine, like authentic self is great. So I think that when you do something because someone else is doing it, you lose that. So, and that's something that you can't mimic. So you can't guess somebody else's next step. So I guess my only advice is to just completely do your own thing. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. I know there's people out there selling bar necklaces. There's people out there selling initial neck. I don't worry about what they are doing. I wish them best of luck. Sometimes if somebody asks me, you know, like, can you get this to America in however many days? And I'll say no, but there's this person over here in America that should be able to help you.
Yeah.
And I sort of wish them best of luck. I just think that being yourself and being genuine and authentic and running your own race is like the biggest part of it. And then when you're successful, you can say that it's your own success.
Yeah, I think from a marketing perspective, that's the best way of doing things anyway.
Yeah, and you don't want to be like, who wants to sort of sit and be like, oh, I don't know what to make next. Let me see what this girl over here does, and then I'll try and do the same thing. Oh, I don't know what to write on Instagram. Let me see what this girl over here is doing. Nobody wants to be like that, I guess. And people notice as well, because quite a lot of my followers have messaged me about a company that's sort of done very similar things. This is actually how I came across one that had taken our content from our website, because a lady went to our website, went to the other website and said it's exactly the same as mine, and then messaged me. And that happens a lot, and people notice. And this is a person that I've never met before. She's just a customer. It's not a friend customer. And she's taken the time to message me. And so people notice, and people don't like that.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's not a selling point. So I would look at what is a selling point, and what is a selling point is yourself.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Just focus on what you're doing and don't worry about everyone else.
Yeah, just run your own race. People like that. And it's honestly a much better headspace to be in when you just forget about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. So I know that the last time we spoke, which I think was a couple of years ago now, you were still just doing things on your own. You know, it was very exciting. You were, really busy. And when we talked before we started recording today, you said you've got a team of 6 now and you're moving into commercial space. How did you find that transition from solo to, running a team of staff?
Oh my goodness, how long have you got? I seriously struggled with this. I'm not a very good leader. I tell my entire team all the time, I'm not a very good boss. It's sort of like the hashtag shit boss. That would be me, because I'm way too anxious. So I'm not very good at giving people negative feedback. I'm not very good at sort of, I guess, feeling as if I've let somebody down, or so there's lots and lots of things like that. I'm a people pleaser. I want to keep everybody happy, and I want to make sure everyone on my team is happy. When everything's going great, that's great. But it's even sort of small things like, oh, look, I would have done that differently. Yeah. That I used to really struggle with that. It's gotten a lot better because I'd have to do it every day. And I also have a really, really good, very understanding team. And they're sort of happy with the way that I sort of manage them. And they're sort of happy that I'm quite open and stuff, and I don't have to have sort of hard conversations with them because they're a really good team. So that's good. But in terms of even processes, letting things go yourself, like letting things go from me doing it to having someone else do it, and they might do it a slightly different way to you, I hugely struggled with that. I mean, we've currently got over 500 orders outstanding. And so I used to know everybody, like I used to know what everybody wanted. And I used to think, okay, this person, like, Karen needs this by Thursday, so let's get that one out. Like, this is for like Lisa's grandchild who's due whenever, let's get this one out. But now with like over 500 orders, I simply can't be that person. So even coming to terms with that was hard. And expanding, like trying to, because I try and be sort of genuine and real on our social media, and I try and sort of share sort of our story and things. So even sharing stuff like that, I think how do I go about it when it's not just me anymore? And, you know, it's not just me that writes Instagram captions anymore. There's lots and lots of things I sort of think, am I coming across as disingenuine, which is a really big, really something that I don't want to do, something that I never want to do. So there's all these little different pots, I guess, of like, how is this possibly going to work? And then I just hired somebody and I guess just started, and they were really good to work with. And I sort of explained at the beginning, like, you know, everything that you see here has just been made up by me. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way to do it, but it's definitely the way that works. So yeah, I just get my staff, I guess, to work with us, and it's been hard, and it's been really hard, and like I've cried and I've got frustrated and all of the emotions, but honestly, it's really good now. It has been tough to get here and lots of learning. There's just learning curves everywhere you look. But I knew that, because I guess I do get that anxiety, I knew that it would always be something I would struggle with. So I sort of almost, when I interview people, I sort of try and work out who I could work with, who would work well with my personality, and whose personality would obviously fit in the team as well as their skills. So that's sort of something that I've learned to do a lot better, I think, and we'll be hiring again in January. So I guess I'll take all of the learnings, I guess, from the last few rounds of hiring, and hopefully we'll add another really great team member. So that would be good.
Amazing. It's such an exciting journey, because I know you started out and it's just, you know, I just want to make $200 a week, and now you're, you know, shipping out 500 orders before Christmas. It's huge growth, and it's very exciting and inspiring.
It is. When I look at, like, when we started, I used to have a little toolbox, like a guy's toolbox, and it would sit next to the kitchen table. And then every time I went to work, I would sort of take all my tools out and get all the bits and pieces, and then upgrade into like just a desk. I think it was from like Aldi or something, like this desk from Aldi in my garage, and I was so chuffed just to have my own space. Yeah, and now we're sort of about to move into a commercial building that's like more than 3 times the size of my entire garage. And I sort of think, oh God, how did I get here? I'm not even really a responsible person. I'm not sure how I'm doing this every day. But
I think that's really important for people to hear, because everyone thinks everyone's got it together and everyone's got this grand plan and everyone knows exactly what they're doing. But to hear from you that you've gone from, you know, working at home with your toolbox to moving into a giant commercial space, and you're still like, how did this happen? Like, what's going on? Like, that's really, I suppose, comforting to other small business people, and go, look, I don't have to have all the answers. I can just keep trying. And I think that's really great.
And I think that that's the truth. Like, I think that it's very much, people say to me all of the time, like, oh, I don't know how you manage it with kids and stuff. And I sort of think, I don't think I really do manage it very well. I obviously get done what needs to get done, but I feel very thinly stretched a lot. And I do definitely, I don't sit here confidently and think, oh, you know, the next 12 months are going to be awesome. It's a lot of worrying, and it's a lot of, you know, we'll have a sale, and then it's a joke in the office that if we put a sale out, it's sort of like at the end of the day, I'll say, right, okay, so do we think that anyone's going to order tomorrow when the sale's over? And then everyone's like, no, we'll be fine. Nikki will be fine. So that's it. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of, and I think I've voiced my concerns quite a lot. And by voicing them, because when you put it, like when you say it out loud, you realize that maybe it is a bit ridiculous, and then you can have people tell you like whether it is or whether it isn't, and that really helps.
Yeah, and you've got a team that can kind of cross-check you now too, and be like,
yeah,
no, that's you're fine.
And it sort of seems silly, like, you know, I'm supposed to, I guess, when people think of like maybe like a successful businesswoman, which I can't believe I've maybe just referred to myself as, but
Definitely are.
Maybe I
You're
am.
definitely in that basket.
And then when people sort of imagine that, they probably don't imagine me wearing my pajamas to work and sort of having like worrying out loud to my staff and that sort of thing. Like it's sort of,
I think it's real and it's human, and I think that's what's so exciting about the way business is going these days is that you can do that, and that doesn't take away. You can go to work in your pajamas and still be a successful businesswoman.
Yes,
The
that's
two are not
right.
mutually
Like
exclusive.
that's exactly right. I might wear a blazer over the top of my pajamas, maybe.
I love it. Someone needs to do like Peter Alexander pajamas for women who are going to work so that they
That
can
is
like
the best idea.
look like they're working, and it's not so bad if you have to like jump on a call meeting, but you're still technically in your pajamas.
So if anyone listener is looking for maybe like a niche market, there you go.
We've just given you a business idea.
Yeah,
I'd love some credit, and you need to come on the podcast eventually.
yes, that's right. We should maybe we'll put shares or something in.
Yeah.
And I will definitely be a customer, obviously.
Exactly. Me too. Me too. Before we wrap up, is there any other, advice, experiences that you can share that you think would help people listening?
I guess not one thing jumps out. It's just, I think that if I think about how I got here, I think it's a lot of hard work, an incredible amount of hard work and sort of researching. I spend hours, like I am quite an obsessive person, and I'll get up through the night and spend hours researching, suppliers or sort of better websites or what else I can do, looking at like what is search engine optimization, like all of these things. I never knew any of this. I guess you've just got to learn and put the time and the hard work in. I honestly think that most people who are successful, they didn't just fall into it. It's been a conscious decision as to how much you want to focus on this, and that's what's got you where you are. Yeah, so I guess that's sort of my biggest thing. And actually, something that I am really good at is strategy, and I'm very good at making targets and budgeting. Yeah, that is a huge thing. I often even like when I started, like I say, I wanted to make $200 a week. I would never go into anything blindly and not know what I want to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a key thing. Like you need to look and decide what it is, because how will you know if you've met your targets if you don't have any targets? How will you know if you're on track if you've got nothing to go against? That is what I find that not a lot of people, when I talk to, actually sit down and do. So we have every January, we have a new strategy. Every June, we sort of have like, I guess, not as big a new strategy, but for the financial year, we sort of hone in on like different things that sort of goes by the financial year, like our turnover and stuff. And it is so important, so important. And yeah, that's what I would do. I would have targets for absolutely everything.
I love that, because you can't really, you can get stuck in business if you think you're going somewhere, but you don't know when you actually get there. So I think that's a really great tip, I suppose. And something that's really important, especially when you're starting out, like knowing that you want to, make $200 a week, then you can feel like you've got somewhere rather than just selling things and you never really know where you are.
Yeah. So I hope I've maybe been some help to someone out there.
100%. We got 3 last little questions.
Oh yeah, go for it.
We ask every podcast guest, do you have any secret strategies, routines, or habits that you follow every day in your business personally that kind of keep you on track?
Oh my God, I honestly don't. So I'm probably the most organized person ever. I'm like a hurricane. I don't really have, what I work on is prompts. So I've got this system that, I don't know, maybe I invented it, maybe I didn't, I don't know, but everything I do is done by prompts. So like I will never get rid of something until I've either done it or I've got another prompt to do it. And so I will say, I will never get rid of a customer's email until it's finished or until it's in their ballpark to message me back. And that'll be my prompt. All sorts of things like that. So I work on that sort of system a lot. And that's in my personal life as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Apart from that, I will I would look like a hurricane most days. Yeah, it often looks like I'm disorganized, but I don't often miss things. I don't know how, because I don't have a great system.
But
So
I think not having the great system, and I think your prompting system is good. Like you keep things around so they remind you to do them later. Like I think you can't still run a business like you run a business and be, it's more like organized chaos, I'd say.
yeah, oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I
I
like
do.
it.
It's somewhere in my head. Yeah, it's just maybe not at the forefront, and it doesn't obviously look like that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Do you have a favorite business book?
You know what? I really don't. I don't really have very much time for reading books at the minute. I did subscribe to that audio book,
Yep.
and I went for 6 months without using any of my credits. So then they sent me a reminder to use the credits. So then I bought a book on sleep and how to get the most out of sleep, because I don't get much, but I haven't listened to that yet. So yeah, I'm obviously not a great book reader right now at this point in life, but so I couldn't recommend any, sorry.
That's all right. Favorite podcast?
This is a good one. So it's it's probably Case File, the true crime one.
Yeah.
I listen to those a lot. Yeah, I quite like true crime. So I listen to quite a few of those. And then there's a few business ones, like maybe the obvious ones like Lady Startups. That's quite an interesting one. The girl that started Kiki K, she does a podcast on that, and I found that one quite interesting. And then there's like Serial and stuff. It's quite, yeah, I'm into a lot of the true crime. So
I have enough problems double checking doors at night without listening to true crime, but I love that everyone else seems to love them.
yes, it seems to be a big genre at the minute. Everybody seems into them. So, which is good because it doesn't make me feel as weird.
No, you're definitely not weird, and you're not the first person to mention it on our podcast. So you're definitely not weird. And if people want to see more about your products, check it out, buy a necklace for themselves, what's the best way for them to find you?
Probably on our website, which is www.collectivebynikki.com.au. Our Instagram or Facebook is also Collective by Nikki. And we also have a discount code for any listeners here. So it's Bright Red 15.
It's Collective with a K, so it's KELLECTIVE and Nikki NIKKI. And we will put everything in the show notes for everyone, just in case.
That's good, because I probably have the worst named business ever, especially with my accent, the way that I pronounce my A's and my E's. Pretty much nobody knows what I'm saying. But
okay. That's what links are for. So thank you very much for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure having you, and you shared some really great advice. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I hope I helped. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to the third episode of the Bright Minds of E-commerce podcast. If you want to read today's transcript or to find Nikki's website, please head on over to our show notes. You can find them at www.brightredmarketing.com.au/show notes/episode 3. The link will also be in the episode description. If you like the show, I'd love for you to leave a review. We're brand new, so each review helps us to grow our audience, which means we can get more amazing guests for you to listen to. Also on the show notes page is a section for questions. We'll be launching our first Q&A episode shortly, so we'd love to feature your questions. Or if you know of someone who'd make a great guest on the show, or you want to join us, you can use that section to apply. Thank you so much for listening. Chat again next week.